He said it wasn't what it looked like. The lipstick, the perfume on his collar, the secretary who called him boss a little too sweetly. But when he left me, for her, he didn't just walk out on our marriage, he walked out on the woman who built his business from the ground up. So while he was busy playing house in a hotel suite, I was busy taking the thing he loved most. Not the house, not the car, the clients, the contracts, the name on the door. He thought he left me broken. But I didn't fall apart. I executed, and by the time he realized what I'd done, it was already mine. Here's how it happened. There's something about subtle betrayal that hurts more than anything loud. It's not the shouting, not the slammed doors. It's the way they come home a little later than usual, the way they forget to kiss you goodbye, the way they stop saying, we. It started with late nights, a pitch, a proposal, a client dinner that always ran a little too long. At first, I believed him. We built the business together. He handled the front-end charm, I ran operations, spreadsheets, the payroll he barely understood. He had the face, I had the foundation. So when he said, "Babe, I need to wine and dine this investor," I nodded. That was our rhythm. I had no reason to question it. Not at first. Then I started noticing the lipstick. Not mine. Too red, too glossy. It showed up once on a white shirt collar, faint but unmistakable. I asked about it, soft, unsure. He laughed it off, said it was from a hug. "You know how women are," he chuckled. "Too much makeup, not enough boundaries." The second time, I didn't ask. I just stared at the mark and smiled like I was stupid. I'm not stupid, I'm patient. His secretary, Rachel, was new. Hired 6 months ago. Young, too young, polite, overly so. Her emails were full of exclamation points. Her dress is a little too tailored for the office. But I never accused. I never confronted. I watched, and while he was growing bolder, sloppier, I was collecting everything I needed. Notes, calendar overlaps, duplicate receipts, her name appearing on dinner bookings I didn't get invited to. He thought I was distracted, tired, too focused on budgets and vendor calls to notice the way he smelled like perfume that wasn't mine. What he didn't know was that I was already building a second set of books, and not for taxes, for war. There's a specific kind of cruelty in pretending things are fine when both of you know they're not. The company Christmas party was held at a boutique hotel downtown. Candlelight, faux snow, a jazz quartet that made everything feel more expensive than it really was. I wore the emerald dress he once said made me look like I owned the room. That night, I did. I watched him walk in with Rachel, trailing just a step behind. Not holding hands, nothing that obvious, but close enough for people to notice. She was in red, bright red, the kind of red that's not festive, but intentional. She glanced at me once, quick, curious, almost sorry. He walked straight up to me, kissed my cheek like he hadn't left me alone for the last 4 nights, and handed me a glass of champagne. I smiled. I was good at that part. "Everything look okay?" he asked, surveying the room. "Perfect," I said, locking eyes with him. "Just like we planned." Because I planned it, I booked the venue, I designed the invite list, I controlled every single vendor, from the catering to the string lights over the balcony. He thought it was just another party. What he didn't know was that I had quietly changed the seating chart, and that Rachel would be seated next to his largest client's wife, not just any wife, a former HR executive, one who happened to now run a nonprofit dedicated to workplace harassment and gender ethics, one who really liked to ask questions. I watched the conversation unfold from across the room, Rachel trying to play it cool, laughing too loudly, swirling her wine without drinking, the wife leaning in, curious, analytical, gently interrogating the girl in red who showed up alone, but stood a little too close to the boss all night. My husband, ex-husband-to-be, never saw it coming. Later that night, he found me on the terrace, The city was lit up beneath us, cold wind rolling over the skyline. "You okay?" he asked. I turned toward him, calm, steady. "Of course. Why wouldn't I be?" He looked at me like he wanted to say something, like maybe part of him knew I knew. But he said nothing, and neither did I, because sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's a warning, and I was just getting started. The thing about betrayal is that it never feels real at first, even when the signs are blinking red, even when your gut is screaming. You tell yourself, maybe it's not what I think, maybe it's fixable. But deep down, you already know. I waited until after New Year's, clean break. New quarter, new fiscal year, no distractions, just facts. I made his coffee like always, 2 sugars, no cream, placed it on the kitchen counter and watched him scroll through his phone like I didn't exist in the same room. His tie was crooked. Rachel never told him that. I used to. He looked up when I said it. "We need to talk." He paused, blinked, then gave me that half smile that had started to feel rehearsed. "Everything okay?" I nodded, slowly. "Depends on how honest you're willing to be." He tensed, just for a second. A small muscle jumped near his jaw. "What are you talking about?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I pulled a single sheet of paper from the folder I'd hidden beneath the table, printed in black and white, 2 dinner reservations. Same night, same time, 2 different cities. One charged to the company card, the other on our joint account. He stared at it, didn't touch it. Is this some kind of test?" he said, shifting. I almost laughed. "This isn't a test," I said. "It's a mirror, and I'm done pretending I don't see what's in it." He looked like he might deny it, go for the script, the gaslight, the "you're overthinking this." But I didn't give him the space. "I know about her," I said. "Rachel, I know everything." He froze. "Are you sleeping with her?" I asked, plain and flat. Silence. That was my answer. I stood up, walked to the sink. Let the silence wrap around us like fog. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the mug. I just turned and said, "You can have her." Then I paused. "But you'll be leaving with only her." He furrowed his brow. "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked at him with a calm I didn't even know I had. "You'll find out soon enough." Because what he didn't realize, what most men like him never realize, is that while he was busy trying to win the affair, I was already winning the exit, and I hadn't even played my biggest card yet. You don't spend 10 years building something from the ground up without knowing where the beams are, where the cracks are hiding in the concrete, where to apply pressure so things don't break, or so they do. We started the business with nothing but a laptop, a folding table, and 2 cups of gas station coffee. He was the face, the handshake, the charm. I was everything behind the curtain. Contracts, billing, client acquisition systems, vendor deals. He couldn't even read a balance sheet when we started. I taught him how to invoice. I taught him how to look like a CEO, and then he became one. He got used to the attention, to being praised. Called brilliant for ideas I quietly passed him in spreadsheets at 2 a.m. He started dressing differently, speaking with a little more arrogance at meetings. Then the we slowly became I. By the time he left me for her, he actually believed he deserved the empire we built together. So I erased him from it. 1 week. That's all it took, because he never realized just how many things were under my name. The vendor contracts? Me. The domain and hosting? Me. The original business license? You guessed it, me. Even the trademarks, re-upped last year in my name while he was on that golf trip with Rachel. He didn't read the fine print. He never did. He liked the spotlight. I held the foundation. I locked him out of the project management system first. Quietly. Then I rerouted all client communications through the new company email, one I had already set up months before. Same branding, same design, just a new legal entity. One without his name on the paperwork. Within 48 hours, the biggest client we had, my client, the one I landed while he was too hungover to show up to the pitch, was calling me directly. "We've noticed some confusion on your team's side. Should we just work with you directly moving forward?" I smiled. "That's probably best." He was so busy chasing Rachel, he didn't notice the silence building on his calendar. The meetings that stopped appearing, the clients who stopped calling, the files that suddenly couldn't be accessed. By Friday, his assistant told him the truth. The company accounts, they're all gone. No one stole anything. I just took back what was already mine, and by the time he realized the business had a heartbeat, it was already beating without him. He thought I'd roll over, that I'd cry, scream, beg for answers. Instead, I lawyered up before he even realized he needed one. My attorney, Melissa Grant, wasn't just good, she was brutal in stilettos. 43, razor sharp, zero tolerance for emotional theatrics. The kind of woman who didn't blink when I slid a folder across her desk filled with receipts, messages, calendar overlaps, and a digital log of every login he made under the company server, even the ones after he technically left. She closed the folder, looked up at me and said, "You ready to burn him down professionally?" I nodded. That's when she told me about the NDA loophole. See, when Rachel was hired, she signed a standard non-disclosure agreement. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep internal matters quiet. But what he forgot, or maybe never noticed, is that I had updated the language the year before, quietly, with full authority, because he never read the fine print. There was a clause: any breach of the NDA that resulted in reputational damage, sexual misconduct within the workplace, or undisclosed conflicts of interest, voided the NDA entirely. Rachel broke all three. They weren't just having an affair. They were conducting it on business trips, charging dinners and hotels to the company account, which meant the moment that relationship turned physical, on the clock, under the brand, she violated the contract. And the NDA, gone. Melissa smiled when I gave her the HR folder. "Do you want to go public?" I didn't answer right away. I just said, "Let's give them a chance to do the right thing first." So we drafted a letter. Not to him, to the board. 3 partners, 2 investors, and 1 legal compliance officer. All CCC'd, all blind. Subject line: concerning use of company funds and executive conduct. Urgent disclosure. Within 24 hours, the silence turned to panic. 1 partner emailed me directly. Another left me a voicemail that started with, "I had no idea." But my favorite moment? An email from Rachel, just 2 lines. "Please don't destroy me. I didn't know he was still married." I didn't respond, because it wasn't about destroying her. This wasn't personal. It was legal, and they were both just names in a file now, on a path I'd already paved. You'd be surprised how fast a secret turns into gossip, especially in the business world, where handshakes are currency and reputations bleed faster than profits. I didn't need to destroy him. I just needed to let the truth breathe. Once the NDA was voided, Melissa quietly released a compliance summary, a sterile, fact-only document outlining how internal company funds were misused, who was involved, and how we were restructuring under new leadership. No names, no drama. Just enough detail for the clients to read between the lines, and oh, they read it. Clients talk, always. By the end of that week, 3 major accounts reached out, not to him, not to his assistant, to me. "We heard there's been a shakeup. We always assumed you were the one actually running things. Just let us know how to continue, with you." One even added, off the record, "Honestly, we never liked him. Too slick. You're easier to trust." The irony was almost poetic. These were relationships he took credit for. Clients he claimed to have landed through charm and vision. But charm wears off. And now that the surface was cracked, everyone could see who really built the house. I didn't gloat. I stayed professional, cordial, efficient. But every "we're moving forward with your team" felt like a silent applause. Meanwhile, his phone calls to those same clients started going unanswered. One of the mid-size agencies he used to mentor, they removed his name from their testimonial page and sent me a referral agreement. He must have felt it closing in, because that Friday night he showed up at my office, not scheduled, not invited, just there, in the doorway, eyes bloodshot, tie loosened, mouth full of apologies. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice low. I looked up from my desk, completely calm. "I don't think that's appropriate anymore," I said. "You're not part of this company." He stepped closer. "We built this together." I tilted my head. "Then you shouldn't have handed it over so easily." He didn't say much after that, just stared at me like he didn't recognize what he was looking. But of course he didn't. He left me expecting to find someone broken. Instead, he found the CEO. Winning doesn't always feel the way you expect. It's not always confetti and champagne. Sometimes it's a PDF in your inbox marked "approved," and the silence that follows, the kind that tells you he can't stop you anymore. It was a Wednesday morning. Quiet. Rain tapping on the windows of the new office, a space that used to be ours, now rebranded with my name on the wall, my vision on the whiteboards, and not a trace of his ego left behind. The notification came in at 8:42 a.m. Subject: Final Partnership Dissolution Agreement from his legal team. Attached: Signed release. Financial terms: withdrawal from all IP claims. Status: complete. I just sat there, staring at it, letting the moment settle. He was out. Officially, legally, no shares, no title, no voice in the room. A year earlier, I never would have believed this was possible. I was the one behind the curtain, working late while he shook hands and gave speeches about his vision. I used to joke that I was the oxygen, and he was the face. Turns out, oxygen can live without a face, but not the other way around. The settlement was clean, on paper anyway. He walked away with a slice of cash and the crumbling remains of his own credibility. Rachel had already quit, quietly and without warning. Rumor was they were still together, but barely. That's the thing about relationships built on secrets. They rot from the inside out. Meanwhile, I gave bonuses to the 3 employees who stayed loyal. Quiet workers who never chose sides but kept showing up, believing in the work. They didn't ask for recognition. They got it anyway. That afternoon, I ordered coffee for the whole team. No announcement, no speech. Just a quiet thank you with real cream and the name of the company, my company, printed clearly on every cup. He thought he left with the win, but that email, that document, that was the first real win, and I was just getting started. He thought I'd make noise, post something dramatic, throw a drink, burn a bridge, maybe even spiral. That's the version of me he knew, the one who stood behind him, not beside him. The one who didn't speak unless she was solving a problem. For him. But I didn't give him noise. I gave him silence. And silence? It spreads faster than scandal. By the time Q2 rolled around, the takeover was complete. New company name, approved. New branding, launched. New leadership team, leaner, smarter, mine. We didn't hold a press release, didn't make a grand announcement, just sent a single email to clients, partners, and vendors. We're moving forward under a new structure, with renewed vision. Expect less fluff, more results. They loved it. Because the truth is, people aren't loyal to logos, they're loyal to competence. And competence had always been me. Behind the scenes, I secured every asset he never thought to protect. The CRM we built together, I owned the license. The vendor relationships he neglected, I'd already renegotiated all the contracts in my name. He'd been distracted, chasing Rachel, chasing his reflection in the mirror, and I used that distraction to take everything. His name disappeared slowly. First from the email domain. Then the website, Then the slide decks at client meetings. No one even asked where he'd gone. That was the part that stunned even me. They moved on like he never existed, because charisma can get you in the door, but consistency keeps you in the room. And I'd been holding that room up on my back for 10 years. The real kicker? A junior exec forwarded me a screenshot from his new LinkedIn profile. He called himself a founder, brand strategist, visionary. Except he wasn't founding anything. He was consulting, alone, small time. I didn't laugh. I didn't comment. Just closed the tab, opened our revenue dashboard, and looked at the chart climbing steadily upward. That's the thing about a silent takeover. By the time they realize they've lost, you've already won. The last time he walked into a boardroom, he was the one everyone stood for. The one cracking jokes, shaking hands, throwing out buzzwords like they came naturally. I used to sit beside him quietly, laptop open, taking notes, remembering who needed follow-ups and who was just nodding to be polite. But this time, he walked in late, uninvited, out of breath, and I was already at the head of the table. It was a quarterly stakeholder roundtable, one he used to run. But now, his name wasn't on the guest list. He must have found out from someone. Or maybe he just couldn't resist one last chance to feel important. I didn't flinch when I saw him in the doorway. I just calmly leaned back in my chair, my nameplate gleaming under the conference lights, CEO, founder, managing partner. The other board members looked confused at first. Then they looked at me. I gave the smallest nod. "It's all right," I said. "Let's give him a few minutes." He stood there awkwardly, clutching a laptop bag that looked too big for someone who no longer carried anything valuable. He gave that smile, the one that used to charm clients into writing checks they shouldn't have. "Didn't realize this meeting was still on my calendar," he said, like that made sense. I didn't speak. I let Melissa, yes, my lawyer, now, on retainer and present at the table, handle it. "This meeting is for active partners and leadership," she said smoothly. "But you're welcome to observe, as a courtesy." His jaw tightened. He scanned the room like he was looking for a familiar face, someone to side with him. But nobody met his eyes, because these weren't his people anymore. They were mine. He sat in the back, not at the table, no laptop, no voice. And for the next hour, I walked through projections, strategy, growth numbers, the biggest quarter we'd ever had, all without him. When the presentation ended, I looked up straight at him. "Any questions?" He didn't say a word. That moment was quiet, bare, but inside it thundered, because power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits, patiently, strategically, until the room doesn't need you anymore. And when he finally stood to leave, I said only one thing. "Thanks for coming. It's important to see what real leadership looks like." He didn't turn back. He didn't need to. Everyone already knew who the company belonged to, and it wasn't him. They say revenge is sweet, but for me, it was clinical, quiet, logged, dated, and reconciled across 3 fiscal quarters. It wasn't about slashing tires or public humiliation. That kind of revenge is messy, emotional, amateur. Mine came in wire transfers, client renewals, growth charts. It came in silence, the kind that follows a takeover no one saw coming. He faded slowly, first from the industry, then from relevance. The last time I heard his name, it was from a junior rep who said, "Didn't he used to be with you guys?" Used to be. That's the part that stayed with me. Rachel? She didn't last. Word got around fast in our world. No one wanted scandal attached to their firm. The last I heard, she moved cities, tried to rebrand, started over. He tried too. Freelance consulting, startup advisory, half-baked partnerships that never made it past the first investor call. He still used the language. We built together, vision, disruption, scale, but with none of the systems beneath it. because I took those with me. I didn't need to destroy him, I just needed to remove him. And once I did, I replaced his place in the market with something better, my own. These days, I rarely think about him. I'm too busy leading the company. We should have built together, but that I built alone in the end. And when I do think about him, I don't feel hate, or love, or even anger. I feel numbers, the numbers he never understood, the numbers he left unprotected, the numbers I used to bury him without ever raising my voice. Revenge didn't look like fire. It looked like a balance sheet. It looked like quarterly growth. It looked like his name gone, and mine in bold across every header. And that's the thing about people who think they're irreplaceable. They never see it coming when they become just another forgotten line item, the end.